recording, and I'm going to work on some administrative things. So, hello everyone. Again, as Tracy said, we love to see faces, so turn on those cameras if you're comfortable with that. Welcome to the July Mile High SHRM Lunch and Learn. A few reminders before we begin. This is an education-based and informational webinar. We do ask that you refrain from any form of solicitation or sales throughout the presentation as courtesy to our current speaker. If you are interested in presenting, I will be putting my name and email in the chat, and you can email me regarding presentation opportunities, and I'll get you in contact with the team that puts that list together. You can be on mute or not on mute, whatever you want to do. It's an interactive presentation, so Tracy might be posing questions. You can either answer via chat or on a speaker. At the end of today's presentation, I'll be displaying the QR code that gives you access to the survey, and then once you complete the survey, it'll give you a code so that you can obtain CE credit for today's session. Note-taking bots will be turned off for this session. That just allows us to have an open dialogue. And I think that's about it. So I am happy to introduce today Tracy Graff. Tracy is not an ordinary team and leadership development trainer. She ignites sparks of potential in every session she leads. By utilizing her 20 years of leadership experience, she is modernizing and transforming how organizations approach teamwork and leadership leadership development by unlocking their hidden capabilities. Tracy is the visionary founder and CEO of Fuse Communication, an exclusive U.S. distributor of workshops that provide months of realistic workplace experience in the matter of few training hours by utilizing AI simulation technology. Today, she's going to be inspiring us to thrive through change and direct us how to navigate the various aspects related to those transitions. So welcome, Tracy.
Thanks. Thank you, Joan. I feel so official, that introduction. Wow. Yeah, so thanks for the reaction there, Elizabeth, and some people the clapping. I can feel the applause as if we were in the room together. So today is the first part of a two-part series that we're doing here for Mile High SHRM's Lunch and Learn related to thriving through change. Today, like it says on the screen, we're doing the navigating transition part of it. And then August 12th, we'll have the fostering adaptability part. It's totally cool if you cannot attend on the 12th. We're going to wrap today up in a pretty little bow at the end. But if you can join us on August 12th, we're going to cover totally different new content to add on to what we cover today. So just letting you know. And Joan already introduced me, so I won't bore you with my introduction again. Just want to say, point out that the focus of my consultancy, Fuse Igniting Communication, as it says on the screen, is to help leaders and their teams communicate, connect, and collaborate. We use a wide variety of tools to do that. Some things are some workshops called like Think on Your Feet. And then one of our main ones we use is Insights Discovery, which are these little color blocks that are on my screen. And we have 20 practitioners under the Fuse Igniting Communication Support umbrella that deliver insights. Some of those are in other states. Several of us are here in Colorado. These are our consultants, and then we also have an in-house program. So at the end, I'll give you a little bit more information if you are interested in getting accredited to lead a workshop in conjunction with Fuse for your organization, like in-house or anything. We'll talk about that if you're interested. But today we're here to talk about thriving through change. So let's get into that. As it says here, change is not only likely, I think we all know it's inevitable, right? How many of you feel like there is a greater volume, complexity, and speed more than ever before related to change? Does anybody, this is probably why you signed up today, why you came, because you're like, yeah, there's a lot of change.
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah. And yes, this is intended to be very interactive. So please come off of mute anytime that you want or type in the chat. And I'll be asking you to type certain things in the chat or come off of mute at certain points. So thank you. But yeah, we're often finding ourselves questioning changes. And we have colleagues that are maybe saying things like, well, this isn't the way that we used to do it, so we don't want to have change or whatnot. And we can often find ourselves frustrated by the effort that it requires to get either other people on board or for ourselves to learn some new processes or skills that are required in a changing scenario. And so there's a lot that's challenging about change. Even if it's good change, it still comes with challenges, right? Think about if you bought a new house. That's a decision you made. You got to pick it out. But there's still a lot of stress that comes with that, right? And so, especially the changes that we don't get to decide are even more stressful. And so we want to explore this some more today. And so thinking about those changes that are thrust upon us, this is some research that Gartner from a Gartner study, and this says that 74% of leaders say that they involve employees in creating a change strategy. Yet only 42% of employees report that they actually feel included. Right? We've got a 32% difference in perception here. So either type in the chat or come off of mute and tell us both. Well, we'll first start with this first question. I'll give you another question. But what's the impact of this? What's the impact of when leaders think they're including the employees, but the employees do not feel included?
Disengagement.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Disengagement. Oh, and in the chat, thank you, Mo. Lack of adoption of the change. Yeah. Lack of employee buy-in, Lorraine. Yes. And it's pretty hard to have effective change rollout if there's disengagement and lack of adoption, right? Okay. So how would your organization benefit if you could close this gap? If you could have the leaders truly involve the employees more and the employees feel more included? How could your organization benefit from closing that gap?
Faster change.
Right. Faster.
Yeah,
And
the employees become like the spokespeople of the company.
yes, they feel empowered, Karen, right? And they speak probably positively of the scenario. I see in the chat increased trust. Yeah. Probably an increase in that, Sherry, the opposite of from before, increase in the trust of the vision and the mission, right? Yeah.
Yes, I think Mo and I are thinking along the same lines. This is Sherry, but yes, I would say an increase of trust as well when engaging employees. And I think some of the previous techniques of change networks and having change champions seems like people are missing that step or skipping that step these days.
Right. Yes. Thanks, Sherry. And in the chat, Lorraine said more successful transformation, right? Not just only faster, like Elizabeth said, but more successful also. And Roxanne said smarter and more practical solutions, right? Okay, so that's what we want to help you do. And across this workshop today and the August 12th one combined, you'll have the opportunity to identify your unique strengths and maybe some weaknesses related to reactions during times of change. We're going to work on building adaptability, and we'll discuss why that's beneficial. We'll practice some real world, that's hard to say, real world tools for leading others through uncertain times. And we'll discover solutions to increase how you and your team can deliver and embrace those next challenges that are certainly around the corner. And this is intended to help you feel more equipped, confident, and inspired to lead change with intention. Now, speaking of intentions, I do want to point out that my intention of this workshop and the August 12th one is not change management strategy or processes. That's not what we're going through here. This is going to be more about the human experience during change to ensure mental well-being of all that's involved. Because I think in the HR world, we understand, right, that mental well-being is pretty necessary for us to thrive through change, right? And so that's the part that we're focused on here. And we're giving you just a small sample of what is a larger full workshop. It could be up to a day and a half's worth of a workshop if we went through the full insights discovery thriving through change process. There's like this big, huge 48-page workbook that we have. So what we're doing is trying to not shove all of, day and a half of information into an hour here and an hour on August 12th, but we've picked some pieces here that we thought might be the most impactful to help you to focus on, again, those three elements the three modules of the workshop are change and transition. They call it color energies with insights, but that's really how people react to change, and then adaptability. So we're focusing a little bit on each of those three areas. So the first part we're going to get into is the difference and similarities between change and transition. So the author of the book Managing Transitions, William Bridges, says that it isn't the changes that do you in, it's the transitions. Does anybody want to either come off of mute or type in the chat and tell me, what do you think is the difference between change and transition? I'll give you the answer, but I want to first see if anybody else already is aware of the difference.
Transition's kind of that process of.
Boom, Sarah. Yep, exactly. It's the situation. Thank you. And also Mo said in the chat, transition acknowledges more intentionality. Oh, okay. I'd say, yeah, more like what Sarah said, it's more the process, the change. So change is the situation. It's the actual act, it's the thing, the new project, the leadership change, the role being different, the policy being different, and that's an external thing. Transition is the psychological process people go through. So it's a process also, but it's a psychological process that we go through to come to terms with the new situation that is brought about by the change. So the transition is internal, while the change is typically external, right? Okay. And we're not talking about the change that people go through sometimes physically. We're talking about, right? So change is an external situation, transition, psychological process. And so, as I mentioned, even if we're in charge of the change, we plan it out, we schedule it ourselves, and maybe we're even looking forward to it, such as leading a new project or something, we still go through this psychological transition process that can go smoothly or not. Anybody think about like imposter syndrome, right? That's a psychological process that can get in the way of you leading something that you want to lead, a change or something like that. Okay. So let's let's chat with each other about some of the changes that you're experiencing. So now's a little competition because I know everybody is going through lots of changes. So type in the chat. We'll try to focus professionally if we can. You can throw some personal ones in there though also if you want. But let's talk about what are some different changes that are affecting you, your organization, your team. And while you're putting those in the chat, I'll give you some examples here on the screen. Maybe reduced budget, AI adoption, having to learn that. Maybe colleagues are leaving. Maybe new expectations about how work needs to be completed, new performance measurements, leadership shifts. All right, yeah, I love seeing yours come in the chat. Start putting yours in the chat if you don't mind. It's okay if you don't want to share too. New organizational strategy. Maybe there's a merger or an acquisition. New team members, new processes. Yeah, like Rebecca said, the COO moved. A new fiscal year with new goals. Yeah, Day. What else do we have in the chat? Let's see. Oh, Lorraine's going through a lot of different changes there, right? Yeah. New customer markets. Yeah, expansion or maybe retraction in some areas of different markets. Merging, Amy's going through. The more global team, Elizabeth. Yeah. Okay. All right. So keep them coming. Thanks, Sherry. Downsizing, Sarah, and opening new locations. Okay. So we've got a lot in the chat. Now is your opportunity to go hunting here through all your changes and pick which one. You get to pick your change that you are going to use for the rest of this workshop here today. Now, I know you're like, well, there's so many changes, but just try to hone in on one that you can use as your little case study that you could use for activities in today's workshop. Okay. And you don't have to share this with others if you don't want. There will be a time later we will be asking people to go in breakouts and share some thoughts with each other, but you could always refrain from sharing in that if it's a private situation or something that, you don't have authority to share yet or something like that. Write it down for yourself so you don't forget what change you picked. Good for workshopping to write it down. And give me some type of sign if you have one in mind. Give me like a thumbs up on the screen, or maybe use your little reaction button if you're not on camera, or just come on camera, even better, and give me a thumbs up. It says, tell me that you got something in mind. Thanks. Love all Elizabeth's thumbs coming up. Thanks, Lorraine.
Yeah, I have no idea how I got more than one thumb there, but
I
fun.
think you used the reaction that was like the not, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so I see lots of thumbs, so I'm going to trust that everybody's picked out some type of change scenario that you can use for the rest of the workshop. If not, try to have it in mind before we get through the rest of this next slide, okay? Okay. We are going to use the William Bridges transition model to think about the different emotions that happen throughout a change process. Now, some people have, said, well, gosh, this has been around forever. This isn't something new. So we totally understand. You might have, seen this before, but we're going to talk about it with a new scenario. We're going to talk about it with your current change scenario. And we're going to talk about each other's different change scenarios that are happening right now. And so this model talks about these 3 different phases of where we have to, on the left-hand side here, end what currently is. We have to let go of something. We have to sometimes lose something in order to then move into the neutral zone. The neutral zone is like thinking about that neutral buoyancy. Anybody scuba dive? I like got certified a couple years ago, and it's like the neutral buoyancy is like actually a goal, right? Is to get into this place where you're not going up and you're not going down, you're just staying neutral. And so this neutral zone is where we're just neutral buoyancy floating in the waters of change. And some people think this is a waste of time, but it's not. This actually is a really important stage of change, not rushing too much into the new beginning and not rushing too fast out of the ending and letting that natural process happen so that we don't make too rushed of decisions. If anybody is familiar with Insight's communication styles, I have a really high red preference, which is to just do things really fast, and yellow also, just like go with the flow. And I realize I need to be more in this like green and blue, patient, calm, neutral zone to not make bad decisions, right? So the neutral zone can help us not make bad decisions. And then we eventually climb out of that neutral zone waters and we get over to the other side of the bridge into the new beginning area. And this is, of course, we understand, right? The new beginning, this is when we really start implementing things. And everybody goes through some version of this transition with every change that they go through. The length of each phase will vary for different people in different scenarios. And some of us cycle back. Some of us get into the new beginning and then we fall back into the waters of the neutral zone, or we fall back into the mourning period of the losing. And that's okay. We can be in different phases at different times, and it's not a complete forward moving progression all the time. Okay. So think about that scenario that you just picked. Which of these zones are you in right now? Hopefully it's a real scenario that you picked. I probably should have told you that. Don't make up something. But if you have a real scenario, are you still in the phase of needing to let go of something, of ending the past way of doing something? Are you in the neutral zone where you're not fully out of the ending and you're not fully into the new beginning? Or have you already gotten into the new beginning phase? Everybody type in the chat for us. Just tell us, which of the 3 phases are you in? Ending, neutral, or new? So that we know you've identified which stage you're in. Thanks. Yeah. And I love that Elizabeth mentioned that you could be in a very different place than other people. That's actually a stage we're going to talk about here, or a step we're going to talk about here soon, is considering where other people are. So I guess I should stress, where are you personally with your change scenario? Yeah. Okay, I see lots of different options. Good. Thank you all for identifying that. Okay, so now that we have identified our 3 different stages, let's move into talking about different reactions to change and transition. And we'll go back and layer those over onto those 3 different phases here shortly. So anybody find humor in this, right? Where you say, who wants to change? Everybody's like, oh yeah, or who wants change? Sorry, who wants change? Everybody's like, oh yes, I want change. And then if you say, well, who wants to change? Then, everybody hides and goes away. It's like, well, no, I don't want to be the one to do the change, but I want the change to happen, right? So, as the saying here is, people don't resist change, they resist being changed. And it's not that we're trying to be difficult, we're just literally wired to respond to fear of somebody else changing us. So this makes me now think about asking you all, how do you feel about change? Let's talk about actually the change that you picked out. Let's talk about that specific scenario. It might be a change that was thrust upon you, so you feel like this C person that's stressed out. It might be a change that you picked out, so you feel like B, you're jumping for joy. Might be a mixture of things where you're feeling there's some strategy in here or something. So everybody type in the chat A, B, C, or D. Which of these best represents how you feel about the change scenario that you picked out here? Yeah, and it can be a mix of the emotions here. Yeah, B and C for some people. C, A. And could be something that's totally not on this screen too. You might have a whole different set of emotions because there is such a wide variety of emotions. So thanks for playing my little pick the emotion game there. But as you can see here, there are just such a wide variety of different ways people react to change. I know you know this, and this is even just a small sampling of it, where some people are thinking, oh gosh, I'm just a pawn on the chessboard, and someone else is thinking, meh, like whatever, I don't know, just kind of whatever about it. And then somebody else is thinking, oh, I have ideas, I want to help, I want to get involved. There's just such a wide variety of reactions we can have here. And we might all be experiencing the same change, yet reacting to the transition in a different way than other people. And so, again, going back to this change model here, let's go ahead and type in the chat. What type of emotions do you think typically are experienced in the ending phase? So go ahead and tell me in the chat, what do you think are some emotions that people experience during the ending phase? Yeah. Grief, anxiety, fear, right? Yeah, shock, denial, resistance, confusion, anger. Yeah. Okay, how about when we swimming in that neutral zone where we're just floating in the neutral zone? What are some emotions that might be experienced there? Ambiguity, caution, maybe some indifference or hope. Yeah. Frustration. Yeah. Detachment, maybe a sense of exploration. And then last but not least, how about the emotions that we experience when we get into the new beginning phase? What are some emotions? And again, it can be completely different for different people. Relief, anticipation. Thanks, Jessica. Hope, security. Yeah. Acceptance, maybe, commitment, maybe, hopefully, right? Okay, so think of that change that you identified for your scenario. What are some of the emotions that you were feeling at these different phases, or that you might feel when you get to that phase? Because for some of you, you might still be in the ending or neutral zone, I know. So think about your own emotions there and recognize them. Maybe jot some of those down so that you pay attention to your emotions, because you identifying your own emotions will help you to be a more aware leader about what other people go through if you're the person implementing the change sometime and someone else is having to react and they're going through their transition of a change that you decided. So this is probably going to be, I think, one of the most impactful slides. So please note this. And by the way, I will be giving you a recap of the slides you'll get afterwards if you fill out the survey for the workshop. However, this slide is not in there because you're going to see it's animated and it gets really confusing. So if you want, pay close attention, and you can certainly take a screenshot of it if you'd like, because this will not be in the recap of slides. But I love thinking here about the transition lag of the difference between a leader that implements a change, and then we're going to get over to thinking about what the individual contributors' transition process is. So you see on the left-hand side, we've got the buy-in to the new reality. And we've got on the bottom, how much time does that take? Okay, so you see here the leaders, they've got a pretty flat line here. They're pretty high up there, of course, that they're buy-in to the new reality, because they start out with a pretty good buy-in because it's their idea, and they might get a little bit higher as it gets going. And it doesn't take them all that long to get from their ending to their new beginning, right? You see those three phases there again, that ending, the neutral, and the new beginning. Now, managers have a little bit of a steeper curve there where they probably start lower in the buy-in process, and they takes them a little bit longer to get up here to the buy-in. And we've got this individual contributors view where they're going to start out really low in the buy-in, right? Because they're like, hey, this just got thrust upon me and somebody's telling me to do this. And they don't get told about it until the leaders are already way beyond their new beginning, and the individual contributors are just learning about it. So we have this risk area where there's the difference for the managers, and then another risk area between the managers and the individual contributors, of where we've got the manager's new beginning overlapping with the individual's ending. And this is like Elizabeth, where you said, hey, you were in the new beginning phase, but other people were still in the ending. And so we need to think about how leaders here in this phase are often like, come on, let's go, let's get going here. And the individual contributors are still saying, wait, what's happening? I just learned about this. So this to me is so important to think about when you are a leader. It's like, your emotions, your transition is on a very different timeline and at a different place than the individual contributors that you're asking to implement this change. Anybody have any thoughts or questions on this that you want to share while we've got this on the screen still? Any confirmation that you feel this is helpful or not?
I do. This is Joan, moderator. And maybe this is something that you address towards the end of this session, but do you think that you ever get managers and individual contributors to the same level of new beginning as the leaders? Does that?
That is a question. The funny thing is, when Insights provided us this chart, it looked very different, and they had everybody starting and ending at the same level of buy-in, and I changed it because I was like, I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah.
So I personally think that there's only a small percentage of your individual contributors, you're never going to get 100% of them to have the complete buy-in that a leader that made that decision is going to have. And in my opinion, but I guess it
Right.
depends. Depends on
Right.
if you only have one or two individual contributors, maybe you have a more likelihood of getting them completely on board, especially if you involve them early in the process. Remember that chart at the beginning of the difference between the leader's perception and the individual contributors of having buy-in to the change and having input. And so the more input you can give those individual contributors, the more likely their buy-in is going to be high, right? Yeah, thanks, John. Good question. Let's see, we've got people in the chat saying, I feel the risk area. Yeah, thanks, Roxanne. Your experience of this is factual. Yeah. So, yeah, Sherry, go ahead.
Thank you for this image. It's a
Mhm.
great representation of how, for leaders to see how that communication doesn't always, how it trickles down to individual contributors. And to the earlier mention of just having some of the early informational sessions or change networks forming with managers and individual contributors to get their buy-in so they can also share information out and hear the leader's message, or help shape the leader's message. So I love the representation, and I completely see it relevant for how information is shared.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I didn't point out like that we have the individual contributors ending to new beginning being longer, right? It's more spaced out. Usually it takes them more time to get from the ending to the new beginning. And I love, Sherry, as you mentioned, you know, the communication piece. If we can stagger our communication about the change to give people different transition points there and not just thrust all the information upon them at one point. Another unrelated workshop to this that we teach, Think on Your Feet, does teach a process of communicating change in phases and like trying to point out the 3 phases of this is what's happening now, this is what it'll look like 3 months from now, and this is what it'll look like 6 months from now, helps something that can be really overwhelming instead of just telling people the end result or just telling them right now. Either one can leave people in limbo, so trying to paint a progressive picture for them is helpful. Yeah. Okay, so we've given you some tools here. We've thought about this image here that you're welcome to take a screenshot of. We also thought about the William Bridges transition model and the different emotions that happen at each. So now we're going to set up some breakout rooms, and we're going to have you go in with a couple partners, and you're going to talk about your change scenario if you'd like. Again, this could be a private scenario if you don't feel like sharing. And you are going to talk about, are you the leader, the manager, or individual contributor in the scenario? Which of the transition zones are you currently in? You typed that in the chat earlier, so hopefully, you know, you've already identified that. And which of these, for each of the different zones, I'm putting a screenshot of this in the chat so you have it. What's on the screen right now is in the chat so you can refer back to it. But talk about with your scenario. In the ending, what did you have to let go of and how did it feel? In the neutral zone, do you or did you feel stuck? And what other feelings were coming up? And what needs or needed to be done, depending on if you're there or if you were there, to help move you out of that neutral zone? And once you're in the new beginning, what outcomes might occur or have occurred already if you are already in that area? And think about what kind of positive impacts could result from this scenario. I know sometimes it's hard to think about the positives. You're like, oh, I only want to think about, you know, how tough this is going to be, but let's try to think of the positives. We're going to have 3 people per breakout room. So try, let's see, how much time do we have? I just want to make sure we give you the appropriate amount of time. So we're gonna be in the breakout rooms for 12 minutes. So try to just, you know, spend about 4 minutes per person or so here if you can. We'll try to send you some reminders about the time that's remaining so that you can keep moving across. Does anybody have any questions about what you're doing here? Okay.
No?
I'm setting the breakout timer for 12 minutes, so it will count down on the top of your breakout rooms. All right, here you go. Let's see. Joan, do you want to be in a breakout room?
I can be, or I can
I
hang
just
out.
noticed somebody just popped out of one, so there's only 2 people in it.
Yeah,
But I can go in there, and if you don't, or
I'm
if you
good with being in. Yeah,
put you in there.
yeah,
Okay, I'll put
put
you
me in.
in there, and then I'm gonna bump around to different rooms.
All right.
And Rebecca, were you able to join your breakout room? Hi, welcome back. Everybody else will be back in just a few seconds. And if you are someone who is wanting to share or willing to share for your group in the chat, please type in the chat something like, I'll share for my group, or I'll be note taker, or whatever you want, so we can hear from the groups that are willing to share. We only have about 2 minutes left to share, so probably only going to be able to hear from 1 or 2 groups depending on how much you share. But if you would like to share, please type in the chat. So we've got Ashlyn for group 6, if you want to come off mute and share. And also, I'm going to put in the chat a little note that if you'd like to be tagged in the LinkedIn post that I'll do tomorrow about this, type in the chat, tag me, and then I'll tag you in it, but no pressure if you don't want to. So, all right, go ahead, Ashlyn.
Okay, so I was in a group with Alexis and Sherry, and we're all kind of dealing with very different scenarios, which is really interesting. So I personally, my company was acquired, so our big change right now is just a total restructuring of the HR department, and trying to get better systemized and better aligned with our new owners. Alexis works for like a company in Steamboat, and they are implementing a new accounting software. This is like company wide. Her company is also owned by a larger company, so she's excited to have a system. It's going to be better. It's going to work better, but there's still some roadblocks and there are issues that they are trying to solve, especially with implementing the new software. And then Sherry is a consultant doing government contract work. And I think with just the economic downturn and government issues, like some of the contracts aren't coming through, and there's that restructuring, people are being laid off, there's survivor guilt for the people staying on, and trying to manage that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know lots of tough scenarios here that a lot of people are dealing with. And so, this was kind of just the first phase about thinking about that and all the different emotions that come in. And so, I wish we had time to hear from everybody, but we don't. So I'm going to share my screen again here to wrap up, but would love for you all to share with one another, stay in touch if there's a way you can help support one another through the different changes that everybody is experiencing. And the last piece I'm going to throw out here to us of a little bit of thing to help us through the change, and then we'll get into more again on August 12th, where we will talk more about reactions to change and how to alleviate some of the different stressors that different people experience. But one thing to think about here is to think about, are we reacting or are we responding to change? So reacting is instinctive. Responding is more thoughtful and proactive. And so awareness of our reactions allows us to consciously choose a different, more proactive response. And we have this other little image we like to think about where you can move from down here at the bottom of reacting and being powerless, and you could go up above this line where we'll fill some things in to get up to the very top where we're responding in a powerful way. At the bottom is where we are blaming others, we're having excuses, we're maybe just in the wait and hope phase. And then when you move above that line, when you're leading above the line, you're acknowledging reality, you're owning it, you're finding solutions, and you're making stuff happen, right? And so what we want to think about is, what are the resistances that we're experiencing that are keeping us from leading up here at the top, where we are powerful and making stuff happen? So what kind of shifts do you need to make to move from the bottom to the top of this? And so that is the last thing we're going to think about here, is what is one shift that we discussed today that could increase your success for the next change scenario you encounter. So jot something down for yourself. If you want, you can share it in the chat, but no pressure. But jot it down and try to hold yourself accountable to something that we talked about today, keeping something in mind or whatnot to try to increase the chances of success in your next change scenario. Again, let me know if you want to know more in detail, as there's this whole workshop and this full program that we could go through if you do want help with any of that. If you do, I will also here real quick before I go into that, say that separately from the Mile High SHRM survey, I have my own survey here. If you want to use the QR code, or I'll put it in the chat. And if you complete this for me, give me some feedback, you'll be registered to win a free 1.5 hour development workshop for your group of choice. So thank you for giving me feedback, and I will, you'll be registered to win. And if you do want to know more about Fuse Igniting Communication, we have private customized workshops focused on team collaboration, leadership effectiveness, sales, giving and receiving feedback, all kinds of things. We have some upcoming other free sample workshops, so I'll put that link in the chat also. To our free events, specifically, the next one would be Think on Your Feet, about communicating with clarity, brevity, and impact. And please invite others who might want a sample of Thriving Through Change on October 9th. And then, as I mentioned before, we do accredit people to deliver our workshops either in-house as a trainer at your organization or as a consultant. So please schedule one-to-one chat with me if you want to know more about any of this. And Joan put in the chat the survey for the Mile High SHRM. I will stop sharing my screen so she can show that also. I know we're right at time though, so hopefully you can grab it from the chat.
Yeah. So thank you for the wonderful presentation. It was very interesting, very thoughtful. I'm looking forward to next month's continuation on August 12th. So hopefully we'll see you all again next month. And yes, I put the QR code into the group chat. I'll also put it up, share it on the screen here. Don't forget to answer those survey questions in this QR code. Let me share my screen and get to.
And yeah, if you double click on that thing in the chat, it pops up so you can
Yeah, it does, but I don't have the document pulled up for you. But it looks like
here.
everybody can pull it up through the group chat. Click on that survey. Oh, there. Thanks. And fill out the survey. At the very end of the survey, you'll get a code. You can submit that code in order to get CE credit. Thank you all so much for coming, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you all. Sorry we ran a minute over.
That's okay. Good deal.
Good conversation. Thank you all.
Great conversation.
Thanks. And I'll stay for questions if anybody has any. Bye, Roxanne.
Bye.
You feeling better?
Yeah, much better. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you. Great session. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks.
Tracy, you know that one slide that was not going to be in the full slide? Would you mind putting that back up? I wanted to take a screenshot of that. I missed that opportunity.
Yeah, let me go back to that.
Joan, thank you so much. I just wanted to give you a heads up. This was really fun for me. I was like, everything ran so smoothly, and thank you, Tracy. There are no codes at the end for the credit codes, so we'll need to follow up with Erica and make sure we get those out to people.
Okay, well, that is interesting.
So Sarah Buskell just put that in the chat, so I checked and she's correct. It just says SHRM and HRCI, and there's nothing there. So we'll just follow up with just a heads up.
Okay, because when I did this in May, the codes did show up.
Yeah, that's why they should show up. So something just went wrong, so we'll fix it. But yeah, sorry, Tracy. I just wanted to make sure.
I'm glad
that. Yeah.
Josephina, are you seeing? Or Josephina?
I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks, Day.
Day,
Bye.
hold on for one more question? Oh, sorry, Josephine. Did you have a question, Josephine?
No, I'm just saying goodbye. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Bye, thanks. It was good to
Yeah.
see you 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I know. Bye.
All right, bye.
Tracy, that was really, really good. Thank you. I know,
It was
I know
really
you know
good.
that and you do it all the time. but
No,
you
I
know
was like,
time
oh
really-
man, I totally did not manage time well with that. I got carried away at the beginning, and then our breakout was sorry.
But it was so
I had to
interesting.
recap.
Really
And
good.
it's applicable, I mean, obviously in the business world, but
Yeah.
I mean, as I shared with you, it's applicable outside.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And actually in our full workshop, we overlay it with the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross grief chart too. We overlay it with that.
fantastic.
So yeah.
That's
Well,
fantastic.
I did
Thank
choose
you.
a business scenario for it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask clarification on